And just because somebody has a CIS certification also doesn't ensure a good talent pool coming and working in it. So this is a major challenge.
Okay, thanks. So you have touched upon the main relevance of this challenge you mentioned, obviously lack of skilled manpower with relevant skills, and that uh, definitely internally and even the third party solution providers may not have the requisite relevant skill power. And you touched upon the nitty gritty of obviously that that's for there are a lot of third party solution providers or vendors here. The issue of patch management. So will that remain only marketing action, that there are so many patch management requirements, and that doing so much patching itself can often be a challenge for manpower who are not adequately trained in these organizations. So a lot of food for thought there. I'll come next to Mr. Sushil Kumar from GAIL, again from the gas industry, one of the largest PSUs in the country. The biggest challenge that you would like to highlight in this forum?
In my opinion, in our organization, biggest challenge what we are facing is the integration of OT with IT. Because our plant is a 35 years old, at that point in time, certain equipments and other things were there which were not having those facility, and nowadays the OT team want that their devices should be supported by the respective OEM remotely from their out of India or from outside of the plant. So this is connecting OT systems to IT. This is one of the biggest challenge what we are facing. So we are, for this we are giving awareness to the OT team. OT training we are also conducting, and we are start working on that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, from a manufacturing and infrastructure organization setup, the core sector, if I may say, the IT-OT marriage, that's the biggest challenge that increasingly, I'm sure the CIOs and the CISOs are facing. While IT security, we have fairly evolved, but on the OT security part, and there are a lot of issues. The production environment, obviously, the people are not so much IT savvy. Then there are a lot of equipments also, which might be still legacy kind of equipments, and which require that technical migration, which has not happened to that extent, which is desirable. And when we are increasingly sensors are being deployed across organization, and we talk about industrial IoT and stuff, the IT-OT marriage, if I may say, needs to happen more successfully, if I may say. Next, I'll come to Mr. Shalin Khetrapal. He's from BSES Rajdhani Power, one of the largest power utility companies in the country. And my question again is the same. For you, the biggest security challenge at the moment?
Thank you very much. The biggest challenge, or like I would say, the most common challenge in a power distribution company is with the OT devices. Number one, there is no standardization. There is no standardization to phase out the legacy. There is no benchmarking or baselining. Number two, availability of skill. So we need more manpower, more skilled resources to handle the security of the OT devices. Number three is tools. There's a huge dependency on the OEM, and there's a scarcity of the tools in the market who can actually handle the OT security. So these are the three important things: skill, tools, and awareness.
Excellent. So the skill part we have already talked, but you have touched upon the important part that there is a lack of standardization and benchmarking measures, basically, especially as far as OT is concerned, a lot of legacy devices. And another important thing you talked about is capacity building, the scaling up. That is also obviously another challenge. So for this round, my last speaker is Mr. Somnath Kundu from NTPC. So this is from the power generation. We have heard from the power distribution side. Now from the power generation side, as a cybersecurity leader, your biggest security challenge currently at the moment?
So first of all, thank you APAC News Network team for inviting me to this program. Now the challenges, as far as what I think in this field is a correct estimation, accurate estimation of my asset inventory, followed by a good risk assessment. Because risk assessments, if I don't assess the business process criticality correctly, the risk assessment fails. And the other challenge obviously is the people part, as Shalin sir was also telling and all our esteemed speakers was also telling. Since in the OT environment particularly, a lot of expertise are required to master a certain kind of an OT environment. And in this era of stringent manpower and all manpowers being on ever transferable positions, so somebody becoming expertise on a certain kind of an OT environment, getting the security depths, getting into the security depths of that OT, suddenly placed into a altogether new kind of an OT. So the people awareness, the people training, upskilling, all these things goes into vain. So I think that's another big challenge where the people upskilling is really a point of concern. So for me, I think these two are the basic concern. And the other point is obviously one challenge is which solution to take, which solution not to take to get a correct security posture.
Okay, thanks. So again, you touched upon the requisite skill, especially as far as OT is concerned, required. And you talked also about the risk assessment part. Yes, very proper assessment can always be, we need not always be reactive. We heard in the morning also, there is need to do some sort of predictive kind of analysis also. We always know prevention is better than cure. So that is also an important aspect. So we have heard from each panelist about their biggest challenge. Now, again, coming back in that sequence to each panelist, my recommendation is, my question is, what would your recommendation be as far as the best practice in cybersecurity that can be consequence of the challenge that you mentioned, or it might be something else, but what would you highlight as a best practice that either you are already observing in your organization or you intend to do so, but one best practice. So I'll start again with Mr. Sandeep Khanna.
Okay, there are plethora of things you can talk of best practices when the list is long. But if I talk of see, the aim, our approach, when you say should be proactive vis-a-vis being reactive. So when I look at my ecosystem, I would look at more of a preventive control vis-a-vis or detection in a this.
Okay.
That is what. So we need to structure when you do a risk assessment of our business processes. We need to ensure that our prevention strategy is at the forefront vis-a-vis our detection strategy. We don't have to look at we do not have to look at that. Okay, that I don't have that my preventive control is not in place, and I'm looking at detection risk. But when I come to now talking of best practices, I would say that it would be more that now the defense and defense strategy, which is already in place, seems to have now withered away because of the kind of the offensive nature of the attacker is. We have to now look at from a zero trust architecture. When I say zero trust, it's that assuming breach. So when I say assume breach, I assume that he's already there in the system, and how will he go lateral? So we have to build our own ecosystem in a manner that our crown jewels are safe, and that's what. So it should be a mixed strategy of having a defense in depth also, and also having a zero trust concept.
If I may interrupt here, we obviously keep on hearing from cybersecurity leaders as well as from the solution providers on zero trust. Now, my question is fundamental understanding. What do you think? Zero trust, is it a concept or it is an architecture?
Okay.
How would you?
So it's not a solution. So when I say that, if you say, no offense meant to the vendors here who are supporting this whole thing, it's not, it's a concept. When I talk of zero trust, it would in terms of identity. So is for me to have that identity in place. When I say that, as I said, since I'm a army background folk, I would say that identity becomes a very important entity for me to say that whenever I'm within a system, whether it is a user, whether it is a service account, it should be like at every stage that that you are challenged, there is an authentication mechanism, there is an authorization, all is set in place. So first part when you say of is in terms of the identity part. When you talk of its posture check, when so-called was the concept of talking of posture check is in terms of identifying the who the resource is, what is it. Subsequent is in terms of making sure that where does this particular, what access do I have? When I talk after the identity part, I'm talking the access management. So what am I entitled? Where can I actually, what accesses I have? That is very essential. Because I may have come into the system, there onwards, if I have a free run, if I can actually from say an endpoint, I can reach to my production systems. That's what as an attacker, that my achievement is. Also, when I talk of zero trust, I would say that I would like to have encryption by default. At the transport layer, fine, but even at rest, that is very important. That's what I would say in brief, what zero trust would be.
Okay, thanks. So you touched upon the zero trust and the identity as your prescription, identity authorization, first authentication, authorization, and then on the zero trust as a concept. Mr. Paparaju, your one prescription of a security best practice you would like to follow?
Well, first of all, I think there is no one single prescription which meets all the diseases. And we normally write that in our approval files. There is no one solution which meets all the problems. So that's why we have any organization you go, just for cyber security, we have n number of solutions in different perspectives. Fundamentally, I would look into 3 or 4 major aspects. The first thing is we all have a information security management system. We comply to some standard. Every organization does it. Only thing is, are we following it perfectly? We have it on paper or do we have it in practice? That is the fundamental best practice. If you practice what we preach, that is fundamentally solves 90% of the issues. Because ultimately, when I say, what is the problem we have? How can you control the uncontrollables? That's the question. One cannot control the uncontrollables, or how a hacker behaves is not in your domain. You cannot control it. The only thing we can control is, are we staying within our rules? Are we staying protective? Because when a policy is made, it takes a 360-degree approach. So it is not only the cyber security, it's also physical access control security. Not just the application access, who wants access, the zero trust, like need to know basis, need to work basis. So we all integrate with the Active Directory service mostly to maintain the single sign-on because that's where the employee database gets regularly updated. But in most of the cyber acts which have recently happened, the first thing which was compromised is the Active Directory service. Because once you get an admin login, then one cannot remove a hacker from a system. So how does a hacker think? He will try to get his best, do his best to get an admin login. So that's where the problem comes up. Once an admin login is there, you cannot remove from the system. And one of the 2 other best practices, having regular drills for the application. Because if an eventuality happens, how fast you respond to, how fast, like in a boxing ring, if you are hit by a punch or something, how fast you can get back on your knees. That's the only thing matters. Can you get back or not? Okay. So if you get back, what is the time? So another is the important thing is just one last one. Table talk exercises are very important because normally in a crisis, we have teams, but who does what? In any plant, most of us are all engineers who come with industrial backgrounds. We have seen drills are very important, and even in the cyber security, drill is very important with a tabletop exercise. Like a tabletop exercise gives a scenario. So in the scenario, who does what? Who does respond? What are the options? So it is better to prepare rather than act at later date.
Okay, so the drills are very important thing you mentioned. I wanted to ask you one more thing. You initially talked about the compliances with a lot of these regulations. So my question is, you need to obviously have your organization secure. You have to follow the stringent regulatory guidelines also. And at the same time, you have to optimize productivity for the organization. How do you balance all the three?
No organization will say produce with unsafe practice. So when we say we are trying to shortcut or put a what we call Indian parlance a jugaad in place. So that will obviously have a risk. When you say risk, so my simple thing is not even that. Practice what you preach. You say you make an official policy, jugaad is okay, then that's fine. So you know the risk. You don't trust even your system then. Zero trust, extend to zero trust to somebody else.
Great.
So simple thing is one should practice what the documents say.
So very important. Strictly following the practice, what you preach might take care of a lot of the challenges in this scenario. Mr. Sushil Kumar, next, your one best practice in cybersecurity that you should follow.
In my opinion, to protect from the ransomware, normally that the attacker first of and the foremost attack the tape library, disk area where the backups are stored. So we should have backup in a detachable media so that in the worst case scenario, even in case the organization is having the ransomware attack, at least we are not at zero stage. We are having, say, we are having 5 days old data or something. So some practice we want to follow that at least at some frequency, we are having the offsite backup. One is this. Second, we want that the laptops and the mobiles of the vendors, third-party persons, OEMs, which are to be connected to the corporate network, it should be thoroughly sanitized, or some specified rule is there that those laptops and all those things, they are having some specified patch level and this antivirus solution and all those things.
Okay, thanks. So if I may sum up the two important things that you talked about, one was the device management of the entire ecosystem, and the other thing that you talked about was basically what I may say, the device management.
Device management, like the vendors, like some vendor comes to the organization that I have to give presentation. It should not be that. It should not be that we should immediately connect his laptop to this thing.
Exactly.
That laptop, which will of the vendor OEM or this, that should satisfy the basic some prerequisite of the organization, and it should be network access and all those things. So only then we will provide the network access of the laptop to be connected to that.
Okay. So I'll put one question to you on this, very briefly answering. What we had seen, especially after the COVID pandemic, I know you are all from large manufacturing organization and pure work from home was not viable here. But still, we had seen a lot of these employees moving to a work from anywhere kind of environment and connecting from any device, any sort of devices. So this this sort of hybrid model is likely to be there in the future. So how is the challenge, this device management thing you are talking about?
That is separate thing. Those devices, they are connected to the VDI, virtual desktop interface. Though they are not connecting directly to the server. So I am talking about, say, if a vendor or OEM has come and he directly connecting his laptop to the LAN of our network.
Partner ecosystem, their devices you are talking about. Okay. Another very critical thing we heard. Shalin, I'll come to you next. Your biggest main best practice, what you would prescribe?
Uh, in my opinion, if one has to evaluate the assets of his organization, what kind of assets you have, what are the weaknesses, what are the vulnerabilities in the asset, what are the legacies, where we need to do a patch, where we need to do an upgrade, and there should be constant testing of these assets. Security testing of the assets is very important. This should be done at a periodic level, and there should be a plan to upgrade those assets and phase out the assets.
So this technology audit from a PSU perspective, we know PSUs have to follow a lot of government policies and which always are not very up to date with the, so these sort of periodicity of these technology kind of audits, how frequent they are and how successfully they are devised. I'll come to you.
So we are doing a quarterly security audits, both functional as well as the device security.
Okay, quarterly. Okay, that's a good recommendation. Mr. Shomnath Kundu, now your best practice recommendation.
So for me, the best practice, again, in a general term, layman's language, it's just like a doctor prescribing broad spectrum antibiotic. So it's just like I would make an interesting point over here is that generally we do this remediation part once we are talking about incident and its response. But I think if we dig deep and have a good practice of remediating any kind of loopholes we are aware of, be it in the architecture, be it technical, or be it a policy oriented one, it should be immediately remediated because that is one weak link in the entire chain which is killing that chain. The other part, the other best practice which I would like to put through is, I think again I will like to take upon from Paparaju sir what he was telling is that whatever you have designed, whatever was initially implemented should continue irrespective of the requirement of ease of the end customer within your organization. The end customer's ease should not be a priority. The design should continue even in a phase of 10 to 12 years. That design should still stick on. And the third factor, which I very bluntly try to put upon, is that, as was already discussed earlier, that being in a generation company at least, the only task, or be it for any other organization, whatever be the outcome, whatever be the economics, whatever be the commercials, go for upgradation of legacy system. Gone are days when we still think of working with legacy system, putting countermeasures on them and protecting them. In this era of very, very sophisticated hacking environment and the hackers will always be ahead of us, how much we try. If we are not upgrading our system to the latest one and still trying to continue with the legacy one, then we are sitting duck.
Okay, so if I may briefly ask you here, again, sticking to a PSU environment, how practical or viably this legacy upgradation is being done, and what is the period of technology obsolescence in a PSU kind of scenario?
So to answer the second question first, for us it is somewhere around 7 to 8 years.
Okay.
If I talk about, roughly I talk about Windows obsolescence phase and upcoming applications provenness factor. And to answer the previous part, I have a very positive thing to say. Right from the government, from the ministry to the organization management, everybody is supporting any kind of investment done for a good cyber posture, and upgradation is one of them. So we are definitely getting support from all these three pillars.
Okay, thank you. So if I may sum up the discussion that we have had, the critical issues we talked about were there is lack of cyber secure skilled manpower. There is a lack of culture, cybersecurity culture in the PSUs. Regular audit are required. The identity management is essential. Obviously, we heard about the remediation policies, and then the technology obsolescence that's happening. Overall, having a cyber secure fail-safe environment, device management environment with the larger ecosystem too. So these are all the critical issues that we discussed. So before I conclude, one short question. I didn't mention the OT part. All of you all mentioned the OT part. So this is an open question. Anyone can answer. Briefly, the future of OT security in terms of for Indian PSUs. Is it already mainstream, or if not, how soon do you think it will happen? Anyone? Yes, sir.
Sure. So the OT security is in progress, and I believe government is working and on all the fronts, be it the end user or the vendors or the OEMs. So all like areas are being touched upon, and like I believe in next 5 years, as the span 3 to 5 years, we can see that a lot of change would happen in the like OT security span area.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone would like to add here? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would not consider OT as a separate part of any of the system. It is rather, I would think as a subset of IT, because the demand of analytics is a central layer in IT, and the data is in the OT. So unless you both merge together, there is no data flow for analytics, any analytics,
Okay.
because the data is in sensors. So in the near future, there won't be any sort of a convergence. Is not a question. It's not an option. It's a business necessity.
Okay. Obviously. So yes, sir. Sure.
So since there are a lot of service providers over here, so I would like to take this opportunity calling upon the question by Rajni sir, is that I think the time has come. OT is definitely mainstream security now. There's no doubt about it. But the time has come when service providers should be more and more in integration and touch with the OEMs as well as with the asset owner to create a customized solution rather than selling a ready-made product. So rather than going into a shop, it should be more of a architecture-oriented solution based on different organizations.
Great. Anything you would like to add, Sushil or Sandeep?
In the time to come, in next 2-3 years, there will be lot of thrust in the OT environment. Like if I talk about the GAIL, because our GAIL is declared as the critical information infrastructure, because it is a central SCADA is declared as the critical system. So because it has been emphasized that in case there is some issue in the central SCADA, it will impact the nation. So in OT environment, criticality is not limited to a particular organization. In case there is some challenge in the OT, it affect out of the organization in the whole nation. It can affect the economy of the nation. So in the next 3 or 5 years, a lot of thrust is going to come in OT.
Okay. Thank you. Sandeep, you have the last word.
So when I talk of OT and when I talk of IT, I think so they are better. If they are air gapped, it's better. If you've heard the Colonial Pipeline incident, which brought almost half of US to
Exactly.
a standstill, and you want those replications to happen, please do. See, because what happens if you understand the offensive security mindset? Today, in the IT domain, we have execution environments, but in the OT, we do not have that execution environment. Now, if you try to mix these two, there's a challenge. Yes, we need to address them separately. Means you have to have, irrespective of being air gapped, you need to have security in OT. That's a very much essential thing. But to interconnect them is a big risk.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks. With that, we conclude this panel discussion. May I request Shobik to come on stage and hand over a memento to all the panelists here? Following the panel discussion, we have a special address by Lay Smriti, Vice President CSC SPV on digital transformation. Mr. Shomnath Kundu. Mr. Shalin Khetrapal. Mr. Sushil Kumar. Mr. B. Paparaju. Mr. Sandeep Khanna. And I would request all of you to join. Session by Lay Smriti Fox. Yes. Can we have one, please?
Hi, good afternoon. I hope that the session would be exciting, and I assure that I will not bore you with a lot of data or anything of such kind. I know the session would be, and the session might be a little heavy for you, so I'll keep it quite interesting. I'll share a lot of stories from the field where we have worked on. So yeah, so I'm from CSC SPV. It's a CSC SPV under Ministry of IT. And I'm from CSC SPV, as I said. So I'll be sharing some insights as in what we do and what transformation work we do through our CSCs. So before going, I'll just tell you a short story. So this is based on, my experience talking to the field, because I travel a lot across nation to know about the groundwork that is happening. So we connect with last mile, we connect with rural India. And I hope most of you might be from rural India, you might connect well as in what are the challenges there and what are the new technological firms that are required in these locations. So way back when I joined the organization, there was a project that was going on named as E-Inclusion Project, and that was through Ministry of IT. So the project intended to provide digital literacy to women, scheduled tribe, and scheduled sections of the India. So I was talking with one of the beneficiary from Maharashtra, and I asked her. So I hope everyone is very comfortable in Hindi, and I asked her. So दीदी आपने 2 महीने का कोर्स किया, आपको क्या फायदा हुआ? And that spark came in her voice when I heard. She said, I think she was waiting for someone to ask her कि क्या हुआ, क्या transformation हुआ? And that was, she said, दीदी मुझे मैं बहुत अलग फील करती हूँ. अलग क्या फील करते हो? मुझे मेरे घर में पहचान मिली, मुझे मेरे गांव में पहचान मिली. So that is the transformation that she said. She shared that, after going through digital literacy program, after going through the certification program, that was the first time she went to internet cafe. She filled her form by herself, and then she said कि मैंने ये सारा खुद से किया. So that was a transformation I saw, I felt in her voice. So that is the kind of empowerment that has happened in her life. Later on, when I connected with her, she said, दीदी मैं सामने वाले साइबर कैफे में ही मुझे एक भैया ने मुझे जॉब पे रख लिया. She got 5,000 only, but for her 5,000 was a lot of money. That was a lot of transformation that has happened. That was empowerment. That was women empowerment. For me, transformation is that. And next, I will just show the statistics. I don't, so these statistics, I will not go into it, but again, I would like to say what we actually do. So these are the few of the statistics from rural India. So when we talk about rural India, when we talk about urban, so there is a lot of digital divide that has happened, and there is a lot of, disconnect. There is a lot of interruption that has happened up till now. So what we do in CSC is connecting rural people with technology, and that is how the transformation is happening at rural India. And let me tell you a small story that is again from Chhattisgarh. So there is a small person who is physically handicapped. He runs a CSC. I'll come back to what CSC is. So this person, he is not well educated. He is just 12th pass. And when I was traveling to Chhattisgarh, this person came to me and he said, what can I do? I'm a handicapped person. People don't love me. People, they see as I am someone who is outcast from the society. Then we had discussion with the team, and then we asked him, why don't you open a CSC? He said, what is CSC? What can I do? So once he got qualified, we gave him a small computer. He arranged a small room for himself, and that is how he started to work with CSC. Through CSC, this person, he earned a turnover of 1 crore in a year, and again he gave employment to 15 other people. So that is the kind of empowerment, that is the kind of transformation we have seen through CSC. So again, going back to statistics, again, CSCs are external end of Digital India. And through CSCs, we provide a lot of digital transformation work. And these are government platforms. So there are n number of services that are given through CSC, whether government, whether state government services, central government services, B2C services, or any kind of services are rolled down through the platform of CSC. So this is the ecosystem as in what we have in CSC. We have central ministry, we have Mighty, we have national level providers. So this is just a glimpse as in what CSC is and how the infrastructure is divided. So presently, we have around 5.23 lakh CSCs across nation, and at Gram Panchayat level, we have 4.5 lakhs CSCs. So I think this is almost one of the biggest network in the world of the CSC that we have. So, the CSCs are run by rural people. So now when you think about CSCs, how is it possible that a person from rural India who is not at all much educated can run a CSC, and get a turnover of 1 crore or 5,000 or something of that kind? So these are people who provide accessibility to service to rural India. So the person who runs the CSC is from the same Gram Panchayat, he's from the same village, same community, and he knows the needs of the community. He knows what is required for his or her community people, and based on that, he provides the services to the rural people. For example, if I tell you about Aadhaar, so there might be a number of people who need Aadhaar services. So this person provides Aadhaar services. There are people who might, want to have electricity bill submitted. So he or she should not go to the block office. He could visit the CSC and pay his or her bill. Similarly, if he or she wants health service, they can reach out to the CSC system and provide and receive health services. We have different segments of health services that are provided through CSCs. Similarly, if he or she wants education, we have digital literacy mission that we are providing through the CSC. So you might have heard about PMG Disha. This is one of the flagship program which Government of India is running presently. So we have a target to empower around 3 crores people with digital tools. So these people, these rural people, they provide accessibility to these rural cities. And similarly, there are other components that we provide from CSC. Just to give you a glimpse, what are the unique features of CSCs? So as I said, these people are rural. These are from the same community. They have, CSCs at their doorsteps. If there are any need of the community, they visit the community people, they provide the services. So we have district managers and district team who support these peoples. And also, if you think about a larger sector, you might be thinking, in case if I have to go to, block development office or block office to submit a document, probably it will take a lot of time, visiting that place, coming back. If the block development officer is not present, then again, there is a waste of time. So if there is a CSC at the doorstep, the person can always connect with the CSC person and get all its services delivered. So these are, this is a portfolio of CSC. What we do, we have n numbers of services like financial inclusion, financial literacy, education, Aadhaar services, B2C services. So this is a small platform through which we deliver services to the rural people. And the platform which we call is a digital Seva portal. We have more than 4,000 services that are available in our platform. And these services are again delivered by the rural CSC person. So there is a concept called DBT, which our MD he used to say generally when he speaks to the people. So DBT is called digital doctor, digital banker, digital teacher, and now we will have digital advocate. So digital doctor, in the sense he provides health services to the rural community. He is not exactly a doctor, but he is an enabler so that he can connect that person to a doctor. Digital banker, of course, we do a lot of financial inclusion through our system. So digital banker, digital teacher, because he or she is a teacher, he provides teaching services, educational services to the rural people. So these are few of the statistics that are available. I don't want to go into the statistics and the numbers, that we have achieved, but if you see on the other round, you can find, n numbers of 3 crores Aadhaar card, 3.5 crores election card. So these are numbers that a rural person, the CSC, has gained for himself or herself. We have not, done anything, but these are the numbers that they are covering in the rural India for themselves. So again, it is about banks, which I've already said. And PMG Disha, which I was just explaining to you, that, it's an enabler, it's provide educational services to the rural people. But adding to it, what I want to say here is, when we talk about the digital gap, there are a number of digital gaps that are, profound in our system. What we are trying to do is to reduce the digital gap that is happening, the digital divide that is, persisting in our society. We are trying to find solution through technology so that people at the last mile who are present have a secure life. They have accessibility to services. They have accessibility to, the government services that the government is providing, and the norms, the policies that are designed for them. Because what has happened few years back, there were policies, there were a number of schemes that the government had provided, but it was not accessible to the rural population. So here what we do, we provide accessibility, we provide them with their rights, we provide them with their, own accessibility of services so that they can have their rights to have certain amount of freedom for themselves. Another, what we have recently done for the rural people is about providing them accessibility in terms of justice system. So, when we think about advocate, probably we might be very scared when we think about advocate. So just think, when a rural person is told about an advocate, he might feel कि अरे यार बहुत खर्चा होगा, वहाँ जाके तो advocate साहब हमारा पैसा ले लेंगे. But we have designed a system where these rural people would be able to connect with the advocates who are stationed long back. So we have a service called Tele-Law, in which the rural people can connect with the advocates, seek pre-litigation advice, and based on that, they can, know about their rights, know about what their next steps would be. So these are few of the services that I wanted to discuss with you. So this is how the transformation is happening through CSCs presently. This is how we are thinking about a digital India. This is how we are thinking to empower people through the digital connectivity. I know it's a long run. I know with only CSCs we cannot do it, but I know we are like-minded people here. We can connect and we can provide solution to our rural people. We can help, support, extend our hands for these rural masses. Thank you so much.
Next, we have an industry presentation, and I'd like to call on stage Mr. Harish Menon, CEO of ACOPS, for his presentation. Harish Menon.
Am I audible? Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor to be amongst you all. I can see some faces, known faces, and some new faces. Before I get into what we do in the area of sustainability and technology, today I'm here to talk about sustainability as a subject. And before we get into a detail of how ACOPS is getting more and more relevant in the area of sustainability, let's understand sustainability as a concept from a layman's standpoint. Sustainability, I think, is all about creating a livelihood using the planet's natural resources and leaving the planet for our future generations in a way that they can continue creating livelihood and thriving using the planet's natural resources. Few questions which were coming to my head, and I think this will make it interactive. How many of you can guess how many years are left before the Arctic ice melts if we don't make some serious course corrections? Any guesses? Raise of hands, please. 16 years, awesome, you're very close. 17 years, right? Okay. What percentage of the Amazon forest, right, has lost its distinction as a rainforest? As we speak, any guesses? Please raise your hands. Can you guess? No guesses? Not interested? Lunch was heavy? Okay. 40%, right? Staggering numbers. And of course, on the species level, what percentage of mammals are at the risk of extinction? Any guesses? 1 in 4. So I'll rush through my slides. I've been told that we are running short. There's a lot to talk today. So this is a survey conducted by Gartner out of the global top 100 companies. And 86% of the board, which was surveyed, said sustainability is today no longer seen as a cost. It is a disruption-proof investment. 4 out of 5 of these companies who were polled, they said they're looking at sustainability as a cost-saving instrument an employee experience changing platform, and as a platform to change the way business is perceived. And before we get to the next slide, one very last point I wanted to make out is that how today sustainability is becoming a game changer in terms of, organizational values, right? Both long-term and short-term being achieved using sustainability as a platform. And last but not the least, how, decision makers and organizations sitting here and outside are able to contribute back to the society using sustainability as a platform. So what do we do as ACOBs? I think years of engineering and innovation has got us into a zone where we've created this platform calling the digital workspace. The digital workspace makes sure that you're able to give access to applications from anywhere, which means that from a sustainability standpoint, people really don't have to travel places. So you're saving on travel costs, you're saving on the carbon which is getting generated when people are traveling. You're getting employees to, work with better experience, working out of homes or wherever they want to work. Vendors being able to connect from more secure systems. I heard somebody talking about how important vendor access has become. So I think all that is what our digital workspace platform brings in. Sorry for that. Just to extend on digital workspace, what is core to digital workspace? So when we designed this platform, we kept two things at the core of the platform. One is experience, customer, employees, vendors, and making sure that this experience is secure. What goes inside creating this platform is a zero trust network access. I heard some of the panelists talk about it, how that is as a concept today getting increasingly relevant. That's a part of our digital workspace platform. We have VDI. We are looked at with the same lens today as what you would look at a Citrix or a VMware. So we compete with them. Multi-factor authentication, something which is very, very critical for logins, and we extended beyond the two-factor. Right, we are also giving you facial authentication. We're giving you biometrics, and there is a lot we do on the MFA side. Of course, with SSO and MDM on the endpoint. Last but not the least, we also do endpoints from a hardware standpoint, which means we do thin clients, thin laptops, just to make sure that the power consumption at the endpoint is reduced to the minimum. Our platform also encourages folks to work with BYOD as a concept, which means that if you don't want to spend on assets, you want to give the flexibility to your employees, to your customers, right, to your vendors to work with their own devices and yet make it very, very secure. You give them the right experience, right? That's what we have been providing our customers in the last many years, right? The flexibility to choose your device and work from anywhere. One very important aspect of sustainability is the amount of carbon footprint which gets generated when we don't do responsible recycling. Having said that, and the amount of endpoints today getting transformed, people are having multiple devices. So we thought that the way we want to work in this space will be how we can reuse, how we can repurpose, and how we can contribute towards a more responsible refresh on the endpoint side. What we do there is we have our own operating system, which means that those of you who want to look at options other than the traditional options, including Microsoft, you can look at us. So that's one option which comes. And of course, we make sure that the asset life gets extended by using VDI as a technology. We're also making sure that many of you today sitting here are able to securely access your applications. Those of you who are using the NIC Web VPN is nothing but ACOPS. The complete platform is built on ACOPS, and your access to e-office, etc., happens through ACOPS only. A very critical area we spoke about. In fact, I heard somebody talking about vendor access. Now, you have to make sure that vendors who are coming into the network, they do not enter the network after, unless and until the posture check is done. Now, there are a lot of, gaps. There are a lot of critical security issues when you happen, when you expose your network to vendors. This is a very strong area for ACOPS, and we work very, very closely with, say, banks, where it's a highly regulated industry. We have been working with a lot of public sector banks, a lot of private banks, including HDFC, who have standardized vendor access on using ACOPS. Now, what we've done for the government, first and foremost, we are a made in India brand. Our engineering is in Pune, and over the last many years, right, we worked very closely with the government of India, many public sector entities, and as I said, NIC's web VPN is ACOPS. That's what we have built. They had evaluated all the leading vendors who were there in the market, but we made sure that we go back to the binary, we re-engineer the product, and we gave NIC web VPN when COVID struck, right? And everything was up and running at NIC within a matter of few hours. So that is what we've done. That's a standard today. Internet isolation, I heard Sandeep from UIDI talk about air gapping. So we have a triple layer air gap, which we create in using internet isolation. Very, very relevant in energy and utility companies. That's where, IT and OT convergence is being spoken about. Again, the panelists spoke about it. And the Department of Atomic Energy today has looked at our solution, and some of the entities there have already standardized using ACOPS internet isolation as a solution. Last but not the least, those of you who are using vendors who provide, troubleshooting using their platform, I'll not like to name them. We are an option that we give you private hosted troubleshooting tools, and that's again, completely engineered in India. When we look at the future of computing, we see that we have to work with different kinds of endpoints. And one endpoint which we are very closely working on is wearable technology. You will see more and more of this coming through ACOPS, wherein wearable technology will become a standard, and some of the service providers and telcos who are in the country and outside are today considering our platform to make sure that the wearable technology performs at the optimum. A few reference government customers, which includes the Indian Army, the IDS, right? We spoke about NIC. Very recent acquisition was IRCTC as a customer, HPCL, right? LIC, Canara Bank. So across industry today in government and public sector, we've been able to establish good referenceability across our product lines. A few more customers I wanted to rush through, which is Axis Bank, one of the largest banks in the country. 30,000 users are standardized on ACOPS. They use the ACOPS VDI. Many more names, South Indian Bank in Kerala, and of course, many public sector and government customers, including some large IT, ITS companies, and e-commerce majors like Flipkart. A bit about ACOPS. So we started this journey 10 years back, and the name ACOPS comes from Axis Operations. We were working with a UK service provider called ProPalms, and we decided that we don't want to continue working in the services industry. We want to build a product. A brave decision not a lot of companies had taken, because India is known for being the best in the services industry. But we thought outside the box, and we thought we want to make a product. And we started the journey in 2012-13. And before which, of course, we were known as ProPalms. And of late, we've got recognition. recognition in the Gartner's market guide for desktop as a service, something which has come very late, but eventually I think analysts have started taking notice of products engineered in India and how relevant they are for a global audience. 800 plus customers trust us globally in 10 plus countries. So made in India, made for the world, I very proudly say. We have 2 million customers being served using a team which is very frugal. We made sure that we are very frugal in our engineering, reason why 250 people working across all locations in India are able to engineer our products on a continual basis. We only work through partners. We are a channel-driven company, so anybody wanting to work with ACOPS, we have our distributor here today. You can work with them, or many other partners, including the top GSIs, today work with ACOPS. Last but not the least, something which a lot of you would be wanting to know, how do we pit ourselves against the best in business? You can see we're right on top, and we're placed with Oracle and ahead of many other names with a 94% NPS score on the Voice of Customer quadrant from Gartner. Not a lot of Indian companies have achieved this feat in the product space, so we are very proud. Thanks to many of you who have supported us in the journey, and I'm sure there would be many more opportunities to work with you all and have conversations today. Thank you.
Request Shobik to come on stage to moderate the next panel discussion. Shobik, if you can come on stage for the next panel discussion. We missed the mementos. Two speakers, Lay Smarty and Mr. Harish Menon. She has left. Okay, so Mr. Harish Menon, if you may request to come on stage once more for the memento. And may I request Shobik to hand over the memento to him and come for the next panel discussion.
That was interesting. Now we have come to another interesting panel discussion of the day. This time we are focusing on the energy sector for the PSU domain, and this panel is all about building sustainable and resilient energy PSUs by leveraging demand with rapid expansion and digital innovations. And for that, we have eminent speakers with us from various energy PSUs of the country. May I invite Mr. MP Singh, Director, Punjab Energy Development ANC. A huge round of applause for him. We welcome you, sir. We have with us Mr. Yogesh Kumar, Director, Commercial, Madhyanchal Vidyut Vitran Nigam, Uttar Pradesh. We welcome Mr. Kumar. We have with us Rajvinder Singh Rewal, Chief Engineer IT, Punjab State Power Corporation Limited, PSPCL. We welcome you, sir. We have with us industry leaders such as Tanuj Mittal, Senior Director, Customer Process Experience, Dassault Systems India. We welcome Mr. Tanuj. We have with us Muktesh Narula, Chief Marketing Officer, Pinnacle Teleservices Private Limited as well. So this panel will be like a mix of leaders from the public sector as well as industry. We'll try to understand how to build a sustainable and resilient energy PSU, and as well as focusing on digital innovation. So I think Mr. Yogesh has an urgent board meeting, so I'll start with him without taking much time. Mr. Yogesh, let me ask you that your organization, Madhyanchal Vidyut Vitran Nigam, it's a DISCOM. What kind of technological or digital innovation you're leveraging? And what is your expectation out of the industry as well, or the IT solution providers as well? I'm taking these two questions from you because I know you have to leave. That's why I'm taking.
Actually, in Madhyanchal, we have taken advantage, leverage of the technologies by virtue that in earlier days, before you can say 10 year back, we are giving the paper bills to the consumers, and we are also taking the reading by manual readings. But presently, we are taking the reading through the probe, and we are generating bill with automated basis. That means consumers getting the bill, correct bill and timely bill. This is possible only because of the using of the technology. Technology means we have having the mobile basic from the starting of the reading. We have reading from the meter through probe or AMR or OCR, all three technologies. And very few readings are taken manually punch in the mobile application. So the readings are perfect. When reading are perfect, then consumer is getting the bill by perfection, and consumer getting the bill, timely bill also. And secondly, we have done the all mode of payments, which may be UPI to Paytm or other debit card, credit card, CSC, and other every type of mode of payment we have integrated with our system. So consumer can pay from anywhere, even our counters or anywhere from their mobile application or the public utility like CSC services or any other using any other platform. So these are the changes we have done in our billing system with and consumer interaction system for payment purposes. So you can find that by the taking the latest technologies, we have decreased the losses and increases the revenue, decreases the latency losses also. Secondly, we have the correct data of the consumer reading, feeder data reading. That reading is analyzed for multiple type of purposes. That means for distribution losses also. Distribution losses, demand management, and other multiple purposes. So you can see that by using the multiple type of technologies, and we are improving the power distribution system to the consumer. Means the consumer getting, when we go through the supply side, then also we find that we are giving the better supply to the consumer through the uh, peak hour, peak load management, and other type of management. So these are we are taking the advantage.
I'll taking cue from what you have said. I'll just quickly take a perspective from Tanuj Mittal from Dassault System. Tanuj, you just heard Mr. Kumar outlining kind of work they're doing and maybe the probable areas of collaboration. So quickly, if you can add to that, that where you can see that an organization like yours can work with discoms or the energy companies across India.
Right. So So the touch points of the technology starts from the very first point, I would say, where you start planning for the demand, maybe the next 5 years, 10 years, or 50 years. The bigger question is how much do you need? And accordingly, then you will work backward in terms of creating facilities and power generation facilities. So for estimating the demand itself properly, technology these days plays a very important role. So you have all sort of solutions which will help you gather data, crunch and analyze data to come up with a near accurate projection of how much capacity you should build in the short and the long term. Because these are all capital intensive projects. So if you are able to optimize your spend there, that itself is a great saving to start with. Then the bigger question comes once you decide how much you need, then when and where to make. And then that is where the virtual twin technology comes in when you start planning, designing, and actually constructing the facility. So this virtual twin technology, for example, from Dassault System side, is based on 3D experience platform. So this gives you all the preemptive steps which you want to do before even creating the physical facility, that you can create it virtually. You can do all sort of what if analysis beforehand to decide where to optimize, what to do and what not to do, rather than making the mistakes on the field during the execution time. Facility is created. The next step is how to run it smoothly. There again, the IT and OT facilities, whatever technologies we have these days, are anyway being leveraged. And more when we move forward, we will see that the propagation of these technologies will be there to make sure that the plant is being run as planned or as near to the planning as possible. And then all aspect of producing power, transmission and distribution, everything these days, the technology touch points are there. Shavik.
Right, but I'll come back to you. Let me take a perspective from Mr. MP Singh, Director, Punjab Energy Development Agency.
Please give me permission.
Okay, I think Mr. Kumar has to leave. Thank you so much. Before you leave, I request Mr. Rajneesh to come on stage for once and hand over the souvenir to Mr. Yogesh Kumar. If you can allow, I'll just do this needful. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Yogesh, for joining us. Let me take a perspective from Mr. MP Singh, Director, Punjab Energy Development Agency. Recently, we had a good fortune of meeting him in Chandigarh a few months back and doing a similar kind of event on sustainable energy. Mr. Singh, if we talk about building a sustainable and resilient energy company, in what things you will look at? Because, see, sustainable is no more a mere choice or option, it's a necessity, we all know. And sustainable energy, sustainable technology is also an important part. It's not about only using technology, but using sustainable technology. So if I ask you, how do you make the marriage of this sustainable energy and sustainable technology together? What will be your take on that?
See, nowadays, we started this organization in 91, though it's a PSU. And we are basically in the field of green power, sustainable energy, and all these are the key words since then. Now, definitely due to this massive climate change and so much of environmental issues, it has become virtually mandatory now for everybody to look at very seriously at this issue. In power generation also, if you look at, the government has very serious mandates now. And we have the utility chief engineer also with us. So currently, the target, which is with the government of India, is by 2030 to be 500 gigawatts, has to come from the green, sustainable renewables. So basically, once we talk of sustainability, means that something which is recyclable again coming into the environment and is not creating permanent damages in the environment or in terms of pollution or emissions and all those kind of things. So what earlier we were using in energy sector was fossil fuels, most of it, either coal, nuclear, gas, or oil. So shift is happening very quick. In our state, we are currently about 23% in terms of total power requirement. So if we look at very resilient, sustainable companies, both in energy sector, the future is only if we look at now renewable sources of energy. It's very, very imperative. And if you see the growth in this sector has been massive. So for energy companies, it is very, very important now to utilize all these kind of resources, whether it is hydropower or whether it is something to do with biomass power. In the state, we are currently now replacing even CNG with compressed biogas. It's a mandate under the Satat program of Ministry of Power and Ministry of Natural Gas and Petroleum. So all these kind of efforts are going in. So if you pertinently answering your question is very, very important is that we plan ahead. We have been using technology a lot recently. We have now designed the entire renewable purchase obligation portal very recently to leverage technology, which is a multi-user interface for fulfilling all these organizations who have the obligated entities in the state for utilizing this portal for fulfilling their renewable purchase obligations. Similarly, one example I like to give you is that during COVID period, it was very, very tough for us to seek and distribute solar pumping systems to farmers. So we developed a platform for the farmers to that level so that you can use it and submit their request, register it, and even transfer subsidies online to them. So technology is playing a very big role in the energy sector today, whether it is plant management, plant operations, or even looking at energy vision. We recently launched a state energy portal also in order to various organizations or departments can use it. It's a multi-user interface, which is also linked with the government of India. So in the future, it is very, very important that every company which is working, whether it's an energy sector company or any other company, it's very important it has to be using technologies which are environment friendly, looking at a future which is sustainable in nature. So thank you so much.
So technology is playing a very important role, be it for renewable energy, non-renewable energy. But if you talk about sustainability of energy sector, again, sustainable energy and sustainable technology innovation has to play a bigger role in coming years, especially keeping the importance of keeping the environment green, clean, and everything. So that is very important. And again, the moment we talk about using sustainable technology, we're basically talking about building that comprehensive ecosystem where a lot of things can be taken care by the innovation spectrum per se. I saw Mr. Muktesh Narula, Chief Marketing Officer, Pinnacle Trade Services, listening to Mr. MP Singh quite seriously. And he was having a smiling face when Mr. MP Singh said that technology is playing an important and is going to play an important role. So, as a technology solution provider, Mr. Narula, where do you see the convergence happening between a technology solution provider or the discoms or the power companies or the power departments of the states? Your thought on that?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm not really an expert on the power sector specifically, but technology, yes, is certainly helping. For example, the renewable energy that technology has probably enabled, be it solar or wind energy. So that's where the technology, of course, plays an important part. But like the gentleman from the Madhyanchal said about the consumers being able to get the bills and then pay online through the mobile, that's where my technology, my company technology comes into picture. So I would know more about that. And that's where, yes, we've also got an opportunity and we've been able to help energy companies.
So that's what we want to hear from you. How you're helping in terms of those kind of solutions. If you just can shed some light on that.
Yes. So we provide the communication solutions, and that's how energy companies, they send the bills or the information on any power cuts, the meter readings, all these communications. We are one of the gateway providers. That's where our technology plays a role.
Right. I'll come back to you. Let's have a perspective from the PSPCL. We have with us Mr. Rashwinder Singh Grewal, Chief Engineer IT. I'll ask you a different question, sir. Is increasing demand a challenge or an opportunity? Especially if we talk about implementing IT.
It is a challenge as
Can we have?
it's a challenge as well as an opportunity. Challenge is in the way we have to generate more power. We have to generate more power and provide uninterrupted power supply to the industry and all consumers. And opportunities in the way to produce more power, all the power utilities have to work more efficiently and more professionally.
Can you share some of the work your organization is doing in the state of Punjab?
In Punjab, PSPCL was incorporated in the year 2010, and we are implementing the IT since the beginning of the inception of the corporation. We already implemented IT in 147 towns. In Punjab, Punjab is a small state. There are about 200 towns. And the readings were taken up by AMR for large supply consumers, all grades, all DT meters. And for other consumers, we are installing smart meters.
And what has been the response when you're talking about that? I was going to PSPCL website yesterday. I was seeing that there are a lot of technological advancement or technological solutions or programs have been undertaken by your organization. Smart metering is also there. And I saw a section where you talked about using emerging technologies as well. So if you can just shed some light on that as well. How you're leveraging emerging technologies.
Yeah. In Punjab, we are implementing emerging technologies. Just as Punjab is the first state which implemented 1912 number for complaints. During last year, we handled 87 lakh complaints through this number. And there is no breakdown of this call center.
Right. I'll come back to, let me ask Mr. M.B. Singh. Mr. Singh, where do you think, because you're into the power sector for so many years, you have vast experience working in that, where do you see, what is your expectation? Generally, we ask the companies that what is your expectation out of government? But I'm asking you, in which all areas you want that more collaboration can happen between government and industry, between power discoms or power companies and IT companies? Where do you see, what will be your suggestion for that? And I think after that, I'll come to Mr. Tanuj to have his perspective as well on this.
There's huge scope, I'll say. There are certain limitations also because you're always asked to host them on the NIC servers. So sometimes it takes a lot of time to get them these kind of platforms to be hosted on the NIC service. The opportunities are immense in the energy sector for the IT transformation to take place. And for us also in the last 3 years, I think so we have been able to do a lot of work in this sector. We recently completed about our hydropower stations R&M, and we have earlier they were not having these SCADA systems. Now we have recently installed all these Siemens SCADA systems on these power plants, which are now operating. And we also have a linkage to our head office for all these 8 hydropower stations. Similarly, we are also upgrading a lot of other solar power stations also to the latest IT technology and platforms. So there is immense scope. On the side of distributing the services to the rural areas in terms of energy or maybe distributing such equipment or all this kind of services which are basically provided by the government of India or the state government. There is a huge scope to link to multi-user interface or very platform which are very user-friendly, or they can be in local language also. Because normally we look at these kind of services, they're always, if we want a user interface or a user-friendly interface, which is to be in local language, let's say Punjabi, that will make a lot of impact. So there is, I'll say, sky is the limit in the energy sector, because growth is happening. If we look at the per capita consumption in India, it is about, I think so, still far less as compared to Europe or maybe US. We have to still grow a lot, and consumptions are rising a lot. So there are many niche areas in which very specific IT companies can come in and work. And there are other areas where we require huge, large platforms on which we could have, let's say, maybe multi-user interfaces, and we could have services coming, and we could also look at the possibility of PSUs actually using these kind of services for actually extending that kind of leverage to the people in general, to the masses in general also. So there is huge scope, I'll see. Though we have implemented to some extent, but I'll still see that the technology can play a very, very large role.
Right, right. I'll take a perspective from Danuj. Danuj, IoT is becoming a game changer for the energy sector. We know there are a lot of companies are there, a lot of collaborations also happening. AI, IoT, cloud is already. As an industry leader, where do you see that discoms are facing a challenge, and where do you see uh, a technology solution provider can come forward and or do you have any mechanism to identify the pain points of discoms, if I may say so?
I will highlight two areas. First is getting the mix right itself is a question. For India, I think more than 70% is currently thermal coal-based energy which we are producing. This amounts a lot of carbon footprint which we generate. But globally, as well as in India, you will see that more and more we are going forward. The shift is towards the green energy. The atomic-based energy currently in India is probably less than 2%, I would say. But if you see the deployment of technology there as compared to coal is entirely different. There it will be like 50-60% deployment of IT technology as compared to maybe 5 or 10 in thermal coal-based. So that leverage of technology from shift from coal-based to green is what the trend is currently. And the second trend is about the innovation which is happening in energy sector. So let me give you example of only storage. In storage, for short-term storage, you have stuff like flywheel technology is there, and then push hydro storage where you pump the water to a reservoir and then later on bring it back to regenerate the energy. For the long-term storage, you have lithium-ion batteries and the cell chemistry, the battery pack, and the enclosures. Everything is all technology-based. These days, these things are designed virtually first, tested virtually first, and then it is applied in the field. So that is where the technology plays a great role, and it reduces a lot of waste in the process, optimize, and get us a situation which is commercially also very viable for us to do.
Right, right. Muktesh ji, maybe if I may ask you, 12 months down the line, 24 months down the line, 2 years, 3 years down the line, what kind of technology can be the game changer for the energy sector? Your thoughts on that?
So overall, technology, like, I read about technology being used to, build energy efficient buildings. So that's where I believe the technology plays a very important part.
Right, right. Or do you have any specific thing in mind that you think in specific this kind of technology will be the game changer in future for the energy sector, for the discoms, or the power sector?
Yes, of course. The technology has enabled the capability to store the extra energy being produced through the alternative means, like I earlier said, solar and wind. Using those sources over the fossil fuel conventional energy sources. So that's where technology has helped a big way. Sure.
Right. I think Mr. MP Singh was also telling that future lies ahead with the renewable energy and non-conventional energy as well. I'll just end the session with taking a quick perspective from Rajvinder ji. If I may ask you that maybe 1 year down the line, or 2 year down the line, what kind of technological focus you have that you want to implement this or that? If you can just share some of those plans.
In the coming years,
Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
in the coming years, PSPCL is implementing the automatic billing, just like by installing smart meters, then converting it to prepaid meters. Actually, there is a huge problem of wrong readings, wrong billings, then non-payment by consumers. So we are adopting this technology.
Right, right, right. Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. A big round of applause for all the speakers from the state of Punjab, state of Uttar Pradesh, as well as industry leaders. I request Rajnish, the consulting editor of APAC News Network, to come on stage and kindly hand over the souvenir to our esteemed speakers. We can start with Mr. MP Singh, who is the director of PEDA, Punjab Energy Development Agency. A huge round of applause for him, please. To Rajvinder Singh Rewal, Chief Engineer IT, PSPCL. To Mr. Tanuj Mittal, Senior Director, Customer Process Experience, Dassault Systems India. So Muktesh Narula, Chief Marketing Officer, Pinnacle Teleservices Private Limited. And we can have a group photo, please. I'll ask Rajneesh to stay back to invite the speakers for the next panel discussion in the meantime. We can have a group photo, please. Yes.
So now we have another important panel and another important aspect, cloud deployment and across PSUs and the issues these public sector undertakings are facing while they are migrating most of their applications into cloud. For this panel discussion, it's my pleasure to invite on stage the panelists. May I welcome Dipesh Jain, Chief Manager IT from Power Finance Corporation. Welcome, Dipesh. It's my pleasure to welcome the lady on this panel, Haritima Jaipuriyar, General Manager IT, Railtel Corporation. Welcome, ma'am. I'd like to welcome Avnish Vats, General Manager IT, EESL. Welcome, Avnish. Mr. Alok Shankar Pandey, Additional General Manager IT of Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation. Welcome, Alok. And from the industry perspective, Rajiv Kumar Surolia, Director Strategic Business, Ra Infotech. So again, like the previous sessions, we would like to keep the answers succinct, and maybe I would request each panelist to give very brief answers so that we can cover more areas rather than harping on one point. So what I would like to start is, it's now given, be it enterprises in the public sector or private enterprises, or even mid-size organizations, that some form of the cloud they have deployed definitely. So what I will start with Dipesh. My first question is, an organization typically will now have a hybrid kind of cloud environment where there will be certain applications on the private cloud, maybe the business critical applications. The not so critical applications might be on some public cloud. There would be multiple cloud service providers providing some applications might be on the edge. So this multi-cloud scenario, managing that, how is it as a challenge as a technology leader, and how are you managing that?
Okay, greetings everyone. Managing hybrid clouds is not very easy because there are so many options available, and because of the rigid setup you are carrying for so many years. So to moving the workloads from your on-premise or legacy setups to hybrid cloud environments, that needs due diligence to migrate the entire cloud, because what you require in future, that needs to be assessed, whether P2V migration that is required. If that is required, then what are the tools or the approach you will follow for this migration. Then the replications part. How will you be replicating the databases, the applications, the storages in that multiple environments? So that becomes a challenge. Then obviously security aspect, especially cloud security aspects in each of the environment, whether it's public cloud, private cloud, or hyperscalers, that needs to be taken care. So there, when it's already a challenge to maintain a on-premise and a cloud integration thing. And when you bring a multi-cloud perspective in your setup, then everything needs to be integrated, because ultimately it's a fort. It's a IT setup fort, which needs to be fortified in respect of cybersecurity. So it needs a very detailed assessment, and then only you can move forward. Thank you.
Thanks. So, if I may sum it up, the two important points that you mentioned, one is the cloud migration approach and the policies, and obviously the security part. We'll take up on the security part later in slightly more details. I'll come to Haritima ma'am now, and almost a similar question. Organization maintaining hybrid cloud, not just a hybrid environment, but multiple clouds from multiple service provider. What are the management challenges and how are you doing that?
Good evening to all. First, I would like to thank you for inviting me for this panel discussion. And so far the challenges are concerned, I was hearing Mr. Dipesh, that when a PSU thinks of, there are multiple options these days. They can have a private cloud and they can go in for some workloads to migrate on public cloud, and they can have on-premise physical hardware-based application as well. So these all together form a hybrid cloud. And since RailTel, from a RailTel standpoint, I would like to say that we can be one component of the hybrid cloud. Like we can offer, we can become a public cloud service provider for a PSU, and migration challenges that a PSU faces, that can be handled by us. Like we are doing migration we have done for many of the PSUs, and for that you need to have a clear-cut migration strategy detailing all the tasks, and you need to have and we do have a skill set, right set of resources that handle and those who collaborate with the OEMs in handling the migration, doing the test and validation, and finally monitoring the thing. So I think those challenges can be overcome if we collaborate and work together.
Okay. Thanks. So basically, again, the migration approach and as well as the very nitty-gritties of how you take the steps you have talked about. We'll talk in detail. Mr. Alok Shankar Pandey, I'll come to you next. I know you have to rush to a meeting also. So the similar question, multiple cloud scenario. And while there are so many applications, certain applications are on these public cloud, certain are on private cloud, certain applications might be in-house. How do you balance between all of these?
At the outset, thank you for inviting me to the event. And second, in the interest of transparency, all views expressed are personal. No organizational views are being expressed over here. Multi-cloud for me, I don't treat it as a challenge. It is more of a contract management, which is a challenge for multi-cloud as far as I am concerned, because almost all cloud dynamics remain the same. You have multiple different interface points through which you are hosting your applications or managing your workloads. The only challenge that I see with respect to multi-cloud environment is when you start evaluating one vis-a-vis other and you start seeing benefit in one cloud service offering vis-a-vis the other, and you want to port out certain applications from one or migrate applications from one cloud to the other. the business dynamics are different. You tend to get locked with applications into cloud. So that is where I see the challenge. Otherwise, I don't see it as pure contract management.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. So you have sort of highlighted a very pertinent area around the contract management. And when I'll come to Rajiv later, I'll ask him to respond on that. Avnish, again, the same question put to you. Multi-cloud scenario in your organization, how are you managing that? What are the main, if I may say, not bottlenecks, but the main issues involved there?
So I totally agree with Alok, because we need to think like if various options are provided to various clients, right? Public, private, and some specialized, right? So absolutely it is for the client's benefit, right? So you have a choice, you need to put whatever type of application you need to think. It is a public facing application, we can put on public cloud. If it is a business critical application, generally we even not think about it can go on out of on-prem. Now people are hosting SAP on private or virtual private cloud. So I totally agree with Alok, like it's all your strategy, your planning, your evaluation, which particular, where do you require scalability, where you require portability, do you require any cloud native feature like containerization or migration related issue that can be catered with that. So accordingly, it's you need to do deep down study of that, then only you can plan it out, because always it's not proper strategy, not proper planning, definitely it become a challenge for any organization.
So again, the emphasis on planning, and one important word you mentioned, evaluation. This is one point, we'll again take it up later.
So one more point I wanted to highlight, like I am on cloud since 2017 and my whole A to Z workload on cloud. And in 2017, PSU very dare to like opt the cloud kind of environment.
Oh, great. Rajiv, now as a solution provider, as a value-added system integrator, I've come to you, heard from all the technology leaders from the PSU organizations, and they generally highlighted some of the challenges and issues normally faced during migration towards a multi-cloud environment. So as a solution provider, what would you recommend? Briefly, if you can mention the issues, or if I may say, the steps that these technology leaders can undertake when they are going for cloud migration.
First of all, thank you for having me here. I'm thankful for that. So the Amrit Kaal topic, digital transformation, is itself an ongoing process. And I just wanted to correct you here. We are value-added distributor, not the solution provider. Yes, of course, there is a solution at the back end. So we have multiple solutions, RAH being a value-added distributor of multiple technology, especially cybersecurity, and then followed with the other. So transformation is always a challenging part for any company. Prior to this panel, we were having the power sector largely. And I could say that with my own experience, the regime of transformation in power sector started in 2009 with the name of RAP-DRP program. So where the all distribution utilities specifically not having any IT infrastructure or having very minimal IT infrastructure, which subsequently enhanced, and they have given the complete ring fencing for the IT infrastructure, which is basically a transformation from manual to IT. And by the virtue of that initiatives, they've been able to reduce the losses, which was more than 50% in some utility, and up to the 30% or 25%, or today probably there is 15-20% in some areas which they are claiming. So solution enablement in the any part of the life cycle of any organization is a challenging task. Here also, now we are transforming to cloud infrastructure, which is having again its own challenges and opportunities also. And the larger challenge is security, and where the RH role comes in. So just wanted to mention here to give the experience to our prospective or customer or existing or anybody for that matter, those who wanted to understand the real life feel of what exactly is the transformation and how it going to happen. We are going to open or start center for excellence for different type of technologies.
Okay.
So that's how,
We'll take up the security issue. I'll come first to Mr. Alok Shankar Pandey. He has to leave for a meeting. So my question, and this came up earlier also, one, obviously, when you are the evaluation thing, one of the panelists talked about evaluating different solution providers, and especially today in a cloud environment, you are working with multiple providers. So evaluation is one criteria. Beyond that, when you are working with so many solution providers and this having all of them in one basket, that is itself is a challenge. So how do you handle? What are the criteria that you normally leverage to select the solution providers? And more critically, once they are selected, in terms of it can be the contract management or SLAs, how do you ensure that they are conformed to those SLAs?
Bulk of the headache is already taken off by virtue of, at least for the PSUs, a word called mighty empanelment. So that takes off a very big bulk of my headache. Now, the next set of challenge that comes is same solution is being provided by across cloud and especially in the SaaS segment.
Exactly.
As users, we are focused more on the PaaS and SaaS segment. So in the SaaS segment, when the same product offering is available across various clouds, each one of them has a different flavor, different uptake and learning curve. Some are good to take on and have a very quick spin-off. Some have a large learning curve, but have a long horizon delivery period, those kind of things. So you have to identify your business case with respect to the SaaS offerings that the cloud service provider is giving, especially when you're looking at multi-cloud. Otherwise, you can look at concentrating to a single cloud and decide on the majority of the factors that serve you. The minute you go into SaaS offerings of different flavors, you have that much requirement of a different skill set available with each kind of people. And finally, my problem with multi-cloud is it increases my attack surfaces, which is the security perspective. It increases my attack surface grossly. So the attack surface management in itself becomes a challenge.
Okay.
I have touched upon security unasked because I would like to take a leave now.
Okay, thanks. So before Mr. Alok has to leave for a meeting, I'd request Shivani to hand over a token of appreciation to Alok. Thank you, sir. Okay, I'd come to Dipesh now with a question. The question is, we talked about multi-cloud migration and we talked about evaluating the third-party solution providers, but we heard about there are so many of these SaaS providers. Now, when we are talking cloud, there are now 3 platforms we all know. Most of the applications are with these SaaS solution providers, but overall there is a platform also. So there is a PaaS also. Then there will be an infrastructure, so IaaS also. So a very, if I may say, complex kind of architecture. And from a power PSU, these sort of complex architecture, how how easy or how manageable is it in that overall scenario? How do you do that?
See, first of all, we need to assess that what type of service we need to take from cloud service provider, IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS. So up to what level we have capabilities or convenience, depending upon our past projects handled by the PSU IT team and the level of skills acquired by the IT manpower. So depending upon that, you can decide upon the type of service which need to be taken from the service provider. At the basic level, we can take IaaS, where the infrastructure is provided by the service provider, and you can build on the platform and the applications by your IT team. But if the application is quite new or complex or very short-lived, then we can take SaaS also, where that applications is delivered by the service provider, and depending upon the SLAs and the requirements, all those services can be provided by the service provider. So in SaaS, the deliveries of the provider is very critical, because whatever he's delivering is passed on to the users, the organization's users directly, and IT team has more of a coordination role. So there's a huge dependency, I will say, on the service provider. So whether this will work or not, that depends upon the diligence on selecting the vendor and how that contract is written, so that the service is delivered, the application delivered, the performance levels, the user friendliness of the applications, and the entire GUI, that needs to be as per the company's expectations. So SaaS model is definitely workable, but due diligence needs to be done before availing such services.
Okay, so obviously the need for due diligence and having a little bit customized requirements for SaaS or a PaaS or an IaaS. Haritima ma'am, I'll come to you with a security question. Now, in a cloud environment, how can a PSU, and where data is also so critical, so how can you ensure, and especially when you are working on a non-on-premise thing, that security part, the data security in the cloud scenario, what are the measures that you are taking?
So, as Mr. Pandey, who has left, he mentioned, half of the answer was given by him only. When you go in for a multi-panel CSP, half of your headache is gone, because you're already following certain security controls that are required. So, apart from that, I would like to elaborate what all we are doing for security in the cloud. Like we do encryption and data at rest and data in transit, both are encrypted. So the confidentiality and integrity of the data is maintained that way. Apart from that, we also have a role-based access control system, and we have password policy, multi-factor authentication enabled, which also takes care of the security. Then we also provide backup. So in case of any untoward happens, then the application can be restored through the backup that we are having. And we also do regular audits from third party, from certain empanel, and STQC audit also. Like we are already audited by STQC, and surveillance audit also. We get it done from STQC to check the potential vulnerabilities, and also check whether the controls that are implemented, they are working or not, and the vulnerabilities that are found, they are then plugged. So all these measures are taken by a CSP. So I think the PSUs who are thinking to go in for hosting in cloud, they should be rest assured, because security is taken care by the CSP in a professional manner.
Great, thanks. So, very pertinent points and advice for other PSUs. Confidentiality, integrity, multi-factor authentication, regular audits to check the vulnerabilities. You touched upon all the critical points. Avnish, the similar question. Aritima mentioned about confidentiality and integrity. There is an availability part. We know that CIA model. So my question is, while you are ensuring all these measures from a PSU perspective, and as this has been mentioned, that in some cases for the PSUs, some of the challenges take allayed because of MIT's involvement. But my question is, when you are doing all these measures, at the same time, you have to optimize the productivity of your organization. That's a core business. So how do you ensure, how do you balance between the two?
So, very valid point. Most of the headache has been taken mighty, and as ma'am said, all the proper control has been built, all encryption, all audits and identity management, access controls, all are placed. But in my opinion, once we go for a rented house, right? पूरी सोसाइटी का सिक्योरिटी तो होता है, वहाँ के स्टाफ के पास पूरा सिक्योरिटी गार्ड है, वन गार्ड इज एट योर टावर and rest of the are on moving side, but your house is your responsibility, right? Infrastructure as a cloud, they have taken all the measures, but whatever, if you have a private cloud or virtual private cloud, what application you have hosted there, so all these you need to take care. It is not only the cloud's person's responsibility. So if and again you need to have a very like balanced approach. Which particular data, what type of security you need to implement. If you have a business critical implementation, you need to think about data classification and segmentation, right? And once you have given a access control, that critical application, so you need to see what kind of compliances, what kind of access, and what particular module they are accessing it. Again, the monitoring, continuous monitoring has to happen. So if we will put all these things together, definitely we will able to achieve. Otherwise, तो चल ही रहा है जैसा चल रहा है, जब होगा देखा जाएगा. So I think उस approach से हमें बाहर आना है. और I am seeing in since COVID has like lot of cloud adoption is there. So security is prime concern for most of the PSUs as well as organization. Earlier, security was not on that table and it was not discussed.
Yeah, I'm sure, and this COVID thing has accelerated the cloud adoption, I'm sure, even amongst PSUs, like it has done for every enterprise. So I'll come back to you, Rajiv, now. You heard again the security issues. Now, since your core expertise is in providing security solutions, and typically for the PSUs, you have to keep in mind there are certain unique features amongst PSUs and other private enterprises, because one, I may say regulatory conformances or certain issues, government policies, those mandates they have to abide by. So in that scenario, and also in terms of getting skilled manpower, the process might be slower than, the recruitment process might be slower than a private enterprise. So in that scenario, what would your advice as a security solution provider be for the PSUs, and what steps would you like to take?
So on a lighter note, I would say the selection of the right partner like RAH Infotech is the best solution. But having said that, I would certainly understand the concern of PSU of, first challenge is the change management. once the transformation happens, it is very imperative to handle the change management, which covers the security, which covers the skill set within the PSU also, and training appropriately training to the people so that the transition should happen in a very comfortable this thing. So, provided with the current technology and the platforms and the policy guidelines, which is already there in the industry and people are following that, now it has become very much, I would say, the, easy and comfortable to transform the in-house infra to the cloud infra. So I would request all the PSUs not to much worry on that. But yes, certainly one PSU should decide that what exactly is their requirement and how much the size of the digitization they want on the cloud. So the balancing should be understand first.
Okay.
Before getting on the...
So a very proper assessment, accurate assessment, that is critical. So I'll conclude with just 30 seconds to each panelist. My question is very simple. Has cloud adoption opened new opportunities for PSUs, and what is the future? A little prediction, 30 seconds to each of them, starting with you, Dipesh.
Yes, of course, cloud adoption has increased many opportunities for PSUs based depending and mainly because the procurement challenges a typical government agency faces. So working in a OPEX model definitely eases out the procurement things and the flexibility it gives, because it has pay as you go and scale up model. So that benefits as an infrastructure person, I can realize that. And the amount of variations, the variety of solutions available in cloud, that encourages me to adopt more applications, more things for my users. That's it.
Great. So act as a sort of encouragement. Haritima ma'am.
Yeah. So far as new opportunities are concerned, certainly cloud adoption is giving PSUs new opportunities. Like one of the things that mentioned by him was cost saving. The other is efficiency, because you don't have to buy IT infrastructure and just take the service from the CSP. So the deployment is very fast. And the third, and another point that I would like to mention is cybersecurity is definitely a big issue these days. It has become an issue. And even if you have on-premise deployment, you need to have a security team to take care of the cybersecurity issues. But if you go for hosting service from a cloud service provider, security of infra is taken care by the CSP. And the CSP, like RailTel, we also have an in-house SOC where we do monitor all the threats and vulnerabilities, and we take care of the security aspect of the cloud also through that SOC. So security, taking care of security is also on the CSP. That way, it is good for the customer also.
Yes, that's a very advanced measure, I would say, initiative in having an internal SOC to do these measures. Avnish?
So, in my opinion, cloud is the basic building block for any digital transformation, right? PSU are adopting it. If we will see most conservative PSU, where a lot of compliances are there, banks are adopting cloud in a very big way. So, we have a lot of new things to deal with. Otherwise we have to use the emerging technology. We need to build a lot of infrastructure. You go and then buy that services and then try it out, new things. You can have a lot of analytics inbuilt in the cloud. So definitely there are a lot of opportunity available with but we need to have that in depth, or you need to evaluate and what exactly do you want. Your use case should be ready with that.
Okay, thanks. Rajiv, the last word is with you.
Yes, I am also echoing my voice with the transformation on the cloud. But yes, selection of your how much you wanted to take on the cloud or how much you wanted to maintain, that is the first prerogative of the PSU. And certainly since the world is changing very fast, we have to keep abreast with the change technology and the and the benefit, should get the benefit out of it. And there are a lot of analytics, there are a lot of cost saving, there are a lot of assessment which we can do cloud versus the in-house infra. So of course, they should go on the cloud.
Thanks. Thanks. So with that, I would conclude this panel discussion. And I would request Shivani to hand over a token of appreciation to all the panelists. And we have the tokens. Dipesh Jain. Haritima Jaipuria. Avnish Vats. Rajiv Kumar Surolia. And I would request all we have the next panel discussion, and this is on digital transformation roadmap for how PSUs are looking at embracing emerging technologies. And for this, it's my pleasure to call on stage Mr. Manoj Tandon, Director Project O&M, Railtel Corporation. Mr. Rajagopal A, Chief General Manager, IT Food Corporation, FCI. Gautam Kumar, DDG and CGM IT, BBNL. Vidyasagar Singh, Senior GM, SG and Head Digital Services, NSIC. Rishi Raj, Deputy Manager, IPM, Industry Sector, BHEL. And from the industry perspective, Mr. Harish Menon, CEO of ACOPS. This panel poses a different challenge. This is the last panel of the day. So maybe a rapid fire mode will be more pertinent. And when I will start with Manoj. When you're talking about now emerging technologies is a very vague and broad kind of thing. What are emerging? Emerging technologies can be AI, ML, virtual reality, augmented reality, IoT. So many things can be under emerging technologies or blockchain. So my question to Manoj, and I'd like to put that question to almost all the panelists. We may call it newer technologies. One, how are the PSUs looking at deploying these new technologies? And more importantly, where do you expect these technologies will help in enhancing or optimizing the productivity of these organizations? Manoj.
Thank you. Good evening to everybody. I think the challenge starts from mind and the enablement starts in the mind. So the mind is still the biggest enabler as well as the biggest blocker. As you mentioned that emerging technologies has very vast canvas, and you really can't define the emerging technology in terms of words today. The word was never so chaotic what we are seeing today. The life cycle of every technology, every solution is shortening with new technologies coming in. 5G came just a few months back, and now we are talking about 6G. So the keeping pace with the technology is one challenge. But we, technology providers or solution providers, look more from the business pain points or business ask instead of technology, because technology is just an overlay. How do you enable your stakeholders, your customer touch points, your internal stakeholders? That's the question. So automation people always focus more on the solutions as well as compared to technologies. Coming to PSU environment, in fact, PSU environment requires the technology or solutions. There's no change between private and PSU as far as the digitization program is concerned. Both are equally challenging. Both require productivity. In fact, PSU requires more of such automation because of heavy processor, because of legacy mindset issues in the working culture. So we require more of such automation, and it is very difficult to now define the boundaries of digital transformation. I define transformation is only a journey, and we really cannot define because the goalposts are changing quite often. Just to give you in layman terms, the contact center solution, help desk solution, has evolved in last few years from simple voice to now people are talking about replacing human with bots alone. It has gone from various stages. We have seen in last few years only, not much time back. So the journey is continuing still, and we don't know what is going to come tomorrow. On the adoption perspective, internally we have adopted a lot of technologies, be it as business flows, accounting practices on ERP, or automation of our own office workflows on e-office. In fact, we have done the e-office deployment for Indian Railways, which is the biggest deployment of paperless office in India. We are also doing some interesting projects with our customers. One interesting project is that the municipal, I'll not name the customer, but it's a municipal customer. And they want to geofence their working staff. But they are not sure whether they are reporting or not, whether they are remaining in their boundaries during the working hours or not. So they are going to wear the devices with the GPS, and it's a real-time tracking of those working staff on the dashboards. And it will actually give report whether that person was on duty in those time or not, because we have often heard about hosts getting changed. So there are ghost employees and there are actual employees. Great. Similarly, we are doing some trial with Indian Railways for predictive maintenance, wherein interestingly we are going to capture the frequencies which are generated by the train movement on the tracks, on the dark fiber, which is owned by us, and training those frequencies, learning those frequencies. We want to declare whether any untoward incident can happen in future. Although it's a long journey because you need to train data which has never been heard in last so many years.
Okay.
But ruptures, train fractures, those things are those things sound very interesting. And since railway is expanding their network very fast, as well as there is a lot of pressure on the cost optimization from manpower perspective and manpower productive perspective also. So I strongly believe, and we strongly believe that automation based on the new age technologies is going to help a lot.
Sure.
Thank you.
So some excellent examples you illustrated. The e-office, the paperless office, then the predictive maintenance, and most interesting, the geofencing of the workforce. And one important thing you mentioned, that digital transformation is a journey and there are no boundaries to that. Mr. Rajagopal, my question is, we talk about these new gen technologies, whether they are emerging and already emerged. Let's not get into that debate. But in a PSU ecosystem, when you are adopting these new gen technologies, what are the challenges that you face?
Good evening. As you rightly said at the beginning, like new gen technology is a very generic kind of term. So many things can be fitted into it. So I will talk from my personal experience. Basically, in our organization, we are looking at 3 new gen technologies in a big way. 2, I would say, we have implemented or in the process of implementation. 1 is futuristic. First is AI/ML. What we have done is we have implemented AI in a sufficiently large scale in our procurement system, like grain quality assessment, which used to happen earlier manually. Now we have developed AI-based machines which will do the quality assessment for us. Okay. So since it's based on ML, the machine keep learning, and that human discretion part we have been able to eliminate from the system. So the challenges naturally we faced was a lot of resistance. The resistance to change was very strong. So that's from an implementation point of view. The development of the technology itself, it took a lot of time, because one challenge what we are facing in these kind of things, if you want to develop a machine based on AI or machine learning, the training time, training the system, that's a very, sometimes it takes very long time, because in our system, like where we have complex, very complex situations, like grain quality parameters vary from state to state, varieties are different. So the constraints or the complexities are very huge. So it took a lot of time for us to train the machines and reach certain level of accuracy, which was acceptable for the system. So that was one challenge we faced. The other technology which we have been using or we have implemented is IoT-based sensors and IoT systems in Waybridges, where the Waybridge data is getting passed on to our ERP system through the IoT technologies. So there also, that was not a very big challenge. The sensors part is an evolving thing. Like we are trying to put IoT-based sensors in our warehouses to assess the humidity levels, temperature, and these kind of things. So it will give us, it will help us to do the predictive analysis of the grain quality, how it will remain, and things like that. The third technology which we are looking at, which we are yet to do, but most probably will be taking up in our next, when we expand our supply chain system, is blockchains.
Okay.
How we can use blockchain technologies and the solutions available to strengthen our supply chain systems.
Okay.
This is what we are looking at.
So AI, using effectively AI, IoT, the sensors deployment and blockchain. Maybe just one thing I'd like to ask. This was even earlier during the day, in a panel, we talked about the culture, especially in a PSU, where there's a lot of legacy, both in terms of equipment as well as the manpower. And in an organization like FCI, obviously there is a lot of legacy. At the initial thing you talked about, when you are deploying AI, that sort of cultural mindset of organizations, how big is that challenge?
It's huge.
Very briefly.
I would say the change management is the biggest part in it. More than the technology part, the change management, because we have to onboard people and sell your ideas to them, saying that this is a better way of doing things. In public systems, many vested interests are involved. Lot of all kind of interest groups will be there. So to navigate these kind of labyrinth kind of situation and to get these things implemented is a real challenge. I would say the technology is available. How you get it implemented,
Exactly.
that becomes
The change management is a major challenge. Gautam Kumar, I'll come to you next. And you are coming from an organization where technology is the core business, if I may say. So I'll put that in a little different perspective. When we are talking about emerging technology, if you can illustrate what sort of these new age technologies that have already been deployed, and briefly, if you can give us the use cases for these.
Thank you, Rajnish. I'm from the telecom domain, so I will have to speak about the adaptation of these new technologies, AI and ML. Recently, you have heard and you have read in the newspapers that the Department of Telecom has used AI tools to identify the duplicate SIM cards which are being or which were being used or potential being used for cyber frauds. So there are cases in the various states of Maharashtra. So these are the issues that is being faced by the PSUs also, and the ministry being in the monitoring stage. These tools are being used very widely. So this is one of the examples of the use cases.
Okay, thanks. Vidyasagar Singh, from an NSIC perspective, how have you looked at adopting newer technologies? And if I may put the same thing, what are the use cases for that?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, APAC and Rajeshji, for giving this opportunity. So I think many of you or most of you may know that NSIC is a service organization. So we are not into manufacturing or that per se. And our objective and goal is to help MSME grow. So in that context, you would be really surprised to know, I would say, that we are using into all these emerging technologies we are using for helping MSME. And the endeavor is to enable these MSMEs to adopt these emerging technologies. And in fact, multiple initiatives have been taken from the Government of India side, our ministry side, and the NSIC side. So some of them I would like to highlight. So the starting from adoption of, in fact, e-commerce, that itself is a quite a big area for MSMEs, helping them grow their business. And you may have been hearing a lot of news on that front, that MSMEs are not, the penetration of e-com, only the few big players are taking all the benefit. So recently, just a few months back, Government of India MSME Ministry have come up with a scheme for adoption of e-commerce platform by micro enterprises. And when we say micro, means within the MSME, 95-96% of MSMEs are micro, as per the Udyam database. So that number is huge. The total as of today, the Udyam database is 1.6 crore. And out of that, almost 1.4, 1.5 crore are micro. To help those micro take those benefit for market access, increasing their market through the e-commerce platform, the government have come up with the providing 75% subsidy for adopting these e-commerce practices, for cataloging, for contingency expenses like advertising on those portals. And this have been given to NSIC as an implementing agency. So we already have a B2B portal, msmemart.com. So we are helping those MSME join this portal and make them more visible and discoverable. So because we know that there are great artisans across India, or maybe MSME, they are great in creating great products, but somehow they are not known. I mean, they are not known even to the probably their state level or district level. Forget about national or global market. So that's where we are trying to help them to become more visible and discoverable through this power of internet and power of e-commerce, so that the potential and their business opportunities grows. So there are multiple initiative under that also. So this subsidy will be helping a micro, and in fact you won't believe that just in the probably 4 months, more than 2,500 beneficiaries have been enrolled on that portal under this subsidy support system. This is one. The second part is, of course, like any other PSUs, we are using e-office and all those things are taken care. We have multiple hundreds of offices across India. All of them are connected. All of them are using cloud, accounting software or e-offices or other portals. The second most important part is about skilling part and maybe entrepreneurship part, in these emerging technologies. So we NSIC have NSIC Technical Service Center, 8-9 technical service centers, and they are huge in, huge campus. One of them is flagship in is Okhla. So where recently, Samsung have collaborated us for and we have opened an innovation lab. So where we are giving training on AI, advanced AI only for engineers, and that's the in collaboration with Samsung. The second one is recently LG have collaborated with us, and they have established first center of excellence in electronics, along with the the center of the Electronic Sector Skill Council. And so we are imparting entrepreneurs as well as the students who want to set up and go for those areas. We are training them. Philips is just signed debut. So these are few initiatives where we are helping MSMEs in all possible sector. Industry 4, just 1 minute. So Industry 4, we are training MSMEs in all the component of Industry 4. AI, AR, VR, robotics, 3D printing. We have all the machinery installed live on the job training is being given.
So that's very interesting. The way, unlike other PSUs, you are sort of providing hands-on this training to the MSMEs. So just one, very briefly, if you can mention this would require a lot of analytics from you, because you are sort of ultimately deriving a pattern of usage amongst these micro and small and medium enterprises. So how are you leveraging for your own purposes to derive the pattern through AI?
There are two things. One is that, of course, as of now, we are in the process, because in fact, all our 8 and 9 centers are in that particular training and component part. They all are working in silos, but we have already initiated a process of, syncing all of them. The other important is that we have as a part of the MSME ministry, we have integrated our MSME Mart portal with the Udyam portal, which, and we are getting all that data and, analyzing that, which sector, which state wise, what is the, situation of the, as per the 6th census, what is the MSMEs enrolled, and whether manufacturing services, and we are, in bits and parts using that, analytics tools.
Okay, thanks. So Rishi Raj from Bhel, one of the largest manufacturing PSUs. So from that perspective, what sort of new age technologies you have already used or you are on the verge of using?
Sure. So greetings, everyone. So new age technology, the first and most important, that in capital goods, sir was just taking the example of Industry 4.0. So now the differentiation between a service-based company and a product-based company had actually diminished now. So BHEL, in line with what other capital goods important players are doing, we are relying heavily on analytics now. So predictive maintenance has become one of our major focus areas. And we have very recently launched a service called Remote Monitoring and Diagnostic System. So presently what we have done is that we have implemented it in the power plants. You might be aware that BHEL is presently more than 60% of the installed power generation capacity is from BHEL. So what we are doing right now is implementing this RMDS solution in these power plants, which provides basically predictive maintenance. So embedding sensors in all the important components of a power plant, so that we get to understand that what is the condition of the equipment which is running there. And we have integrated the same with our spares and service business group, so that whenever a component is going to fail, they get an indication on the dashboard that in this particular power plant, this component is going to fail. And we start the whatever action is required to be taken. So this is one very important product offering which we have launched in the market. Right now it is for power plants. We are doing it similarly for the oil and gas refineries as well. Okay. So this is one. And Industry 4.0, because we are a manufacturing enterprise. So with that point of view, we have taken actions in 3D printing. So some equipment which require very high precision, we are going for 3D printing of those items.
Great, thanks. So again, you illustrated some very interesting aspects where maybe sometimes we don't realize that these are areas also that are being worked upon. Harish Menon, now from the industry perspective, you heard all of them talking about. So, as a solution provider, and especially when to different, I'd say different levels, each organization is on its own maturity level. So, when you're talking about emerging technologies being adopted, that also would vary from organization to organization. But as a thumb rule, what would your recommendation be as far as best practices when some of these new gen technologies are being adopted by PSUs?
So good evening, everyone. Before talking about technology and tools, I think at ACOPS we associate more with customer priorities, and I'll talk a bit about customer priorities first. When we cut across, verticals, whether it is government, public sector, or the commercial segment, across all industries, we pick up, a few priorities from customers based on which I would say at least ACOPS, we align our strategy towards the customer's priorities. Now, what are these customer priorities which we are picking up? First and foremost is, today data has become a very important talking point. Data is sovereign. So data security and data residency is, I think, heart and central in most of our conversations. Second is, staying compliant with the regulatory framework. We've seen that across most customer conversations that, everybody's wanting to stay compliant with what the regulator advises, what the policymaker advises. Number three, we are looking at technology as a business differentiator. No more would technology be used as an investment. Today, technology is being used. I heard my other eminent panelists talking about usage of blockchain, AI, IoT. So this is being, used to bring in differentiation and to make, business more profitable. We are also looking at, customers talking about getting more from their existing technology investments. So these are, some of the priorities we are coming across as an industry partner to customers across all verticals. Number two is, as a vendor, how do we make sure that we are able to meet some of these priorities? I think we work as ACOPS, work with our partners who are telcos, partners who are MSPs and distributors, to make sure that, the requirements in any of these priorities is right-sized and catered to using a mix of tools, processes, and services. So no matter, what technology you're talking about, I would say that it will always be a mix of, tools, right skills from partners or services from partners. And that's the way, at least, we are seeing big adoption happening for technology and tools across all industries.
Okay, so one of the keywords I would say that you mentioned is right sizing. Yes, that's very critical. So I'll go to one last round with all the panelists, starting with Manoj again, and 30 seconds to each panelist. In terms of a little bit crystal gazing into the future, especially for PSUs, what's the road ahead in terms of new age technologies and more? Where do you see will be the main outposts or milestones in that journey forward for PSUs? Manoj.
As I mentioned earlier, is that in this fast goalpost changing environment, it's difficult to define the end point at this stage. But as you mentioned, that milestones need to be defined. So the milestones, if I talk about automation journey, so it actually varies into different areas. In financials, it's different. It's in operations, it's different. But if I talk about operations and especially the SOC environment, security environment, the techniques in terms of AI ML is actually going to be very, very useful in the security as well as the track maintenance from railways perspective, because that's going to give a lot of mileage to us in terms of productivity and time to respond to a situation. in operations because we run nationwide network operations. So it's going to give us edge in terms of the time to repair as well as the cost efficiency and agility from operations to respond to failures. In forensics, it's actually going to give a lot of mileage in terms of the pilferages happening, the leakages which are happening. So it varies from area to area. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Rajagopal, yes.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the emerging technologies, what we are focusing, we have already identified and working on. But more than that, on that, what I would say, like wherever we have initiated, we will have to take it to maturity, and wherever we are initiating, we have to take it forward and how best we can utilize it. But ultimately, what we are looking at or looking forward to is like we are on a digital transformation phase, actually. There was a mention about the e-office implementation and all. In fact, last year we implemented e-office in 198 offices with 12,000 users, 7 months flat. We completed the implementation. So it was a big challenge. I mean, those who have implemented it know the kind of resistance which comes. So like that, every segment of our operation we are digitizing. Now the next big thing, what we are looking at to, or we are attempting, maybe in the next 2 months, we'll be starting the process, is that how we can leverage on this data.
Okay.
So much of data is being created. We are thinking of creating a data lake and develop a proper analytic platform, which will give with proper dashboarding, and it will be enabling us for better decision making. So that is the next big thing which will be taking
Very
up along
interesting.
with this.
And that gives us a scope for a news also. That's very interesting. Gautam.
Yeah, in our telecom domain, I must say that these new technology will be definitely contributing in a big way in future. Perhaps you all know about the convergence of all the PSUs into one, like BPNL has been merged into BSNL. So all those network of different PSUs, I find that these new technology will be able to manage their network into one entity, and they work seamlessly on the entire nation, and will be able to provide services to their customers everywhere. Similarly, with the downsizing of these PSUs and shortage of the manpower, this new technology will be able to provide the automation and make the system more efficient.
Okay. Thanks. Vidyasagar. Yeah.
So I would say that all of us are, doing our best in terms of implementing or adopting those technologies. But if we can together create an ecosystem, and including this event like APEC, which you have organized to create awareness and ecosystem, developing to ecosystem, then I think the adoption of these technology will be much faster. At much large scale level. In fact, in that context, I would say that all the tech service provider, all those companies, or even PSUs, we must collaborate, to help MSMEs become more digitized to achieve that $1 trillion digital economy which government is talking about. And probably that would be the real success of India and as a country as a whole.
Very interesting in that this creating this whole ecosystem idea. Rishi.
So I would like to divide it into two parts. First is the medium term or the immediate. I see extensive use of data analytics, not only in the typical finance, procurement type of functions, but also using data extensively in the HR roles, in the talent management, in the performance appraisal, in the succession planning, by use of data centers, etc. And in the long term, what I'd see is where we cease to be again a company which is more of manufacturing focused. All of us, the digital first, that takes prominence, and the use of smart factories, the robotics, the use of robotics in the project execution, that becomes a prominent feature of all our endeavors. So this is it.
Thanks. Harish, you have the last word.
So I'll talk about two things which I think are the big bets we are looking at. Technology is going to become more increasingly conversational. That's something which we are observing. Each one of us is aware of what's happening all around us with Google and Microsoft doing big bets in that space. Second would be how technology will become more and more federated between proprietary systems and non-proprietary systems. So those are two big bets as we look at it. Behind all these, experiences, there would be technology which keeps transforming itself. AI was not there 10 years back, or it was there in some shape and form. Then in the World Economic Forum, say 8 years back, AI became mainstream topic, and then everybody started tracking AI. So I think technology will continue to transform itself. There will be new things which come out, but our big bets would be conversational technology and data, getting interoperable between proprietary and non-proprietary systems.
Thanks. Great. Though a lot of the technologies that we talked about in this panel are already being deployed, and we also heard interesting, not only already deployed use cases, but the future, and they really sounded very exciting, especially coming from a lot of the public sector undertakings, while the general impression that they are slow in adopting technology. But we really heard the future looks bright in that aspect. Before we conclude this discussion, I would request Shivani if you can hand over a token of appreciation to all the panelists. Yeah. We will start maybe with Manoj Tandon. Mr. Rajagopal, Mr. Gautam Kumar, Mr. Vidyasagar Singh, Mr. Rishi Raj, Mr. Harish Menon, I request everyone to thanks to all the participants for having a